It's this sort of magic that enables you to see things that are not actually there.
Although augmented reality sounded like science fiction back when the movie Minority Report premiered in 2002, by 2021, it's already being used in some industries to promote products and enhance the user's experience.
We're talking about how Gucci and Armani have used it in the fashion industry.
But like every new marketing trend, we still don't know if AR is here to stay. At Globant, we help companies around the world reinvent themselves and find their way forward through digital and cognitive transformation. We help them create a way forward. Welcome to Unscripted Tech, a Globant original podcast about the trends that are changing how the technology game is played and about what we do with them. My name is Rebecca Reed, and I'm a digital marketing strategist at Globant. Over the next 6 episodes, we'll be talking about technology trends that are changing the game for companies across all industries. Each episode will feature conversations with Globers from around the world, disruptors, trailblazers, and igniters that will channel innovation and creativity to provide a better understanding of what comes next with each of these tech trends. Let's dive in. On today's episode, we'll discuss augmented reality and how this technology is reshaping different industries, including the fashion industry. Having an interactive experience where our surroundings get enhanced by computer-generated information can be really valuable for both companies and their customers.
I think that with AR, with the fashion industry particularly, there's so many things to be done to make it more accessible. The amazing thing that designers are doing to make it more accessible.
Emmy Horcata is head of design and a digital transformation partner at Globant.
Sometimes you try on those filters, you probably end up looking like an alien or one of those sci-fi movies, right? It doesn't look very natural. What I've seen when we've been experimenting with creating these experiences from a technology standpoint, I think, and it's a combination of AI plus AR, right?
Ritesh Menon is VP of Technology and the UI Engineering Studio partner at Globant. Along with Emmy, he helps explain the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality. They are, of course, related, but they're not the same thing.
What we're looking for from an augmented reality point of view is to provide like another layer of information or another layer of experience to the users through a device, let's say a tablet or a mobile phone, that they can only access through that device, and that the information that they can see through that device is mixed within the real world.
I think I'll just kind of add to what Emmy said about augmented reality, right? So if we go with a technical definition, it's basically you're kind of overlaying or superimposing digital content into your real environment, right? So you see what you're seeing and then you're placing digital assets out there. But when you talk about augmented reality, just want to kind of add a few more points there, because when you talk about augmented reality, people bring in terms interchangeably like virtual reality, extended reality. Are they the same? Are they mixed? Right. So just to kind of elaborate a little bit on that, virtual reality is an experience that kind of shuts out the real physical world, and you get completely immersed in a computer-generated virtual world. Right. So it's not in your reality. You're getting transported or teleported to a different virtual world altogether. Now, we've seen examples of this where you put on, and this basically how you achieve it is you need specialized headset devices such as Oculus, HoloLens, or Samsung Gear VR. These are specialized hardware that you require. Now, we'll talk about extended reality, and which is where the confusion starts. Right? Extended reality is more sort of an umbrella term that covers both AR and VR. But the difference is that these devices are more context aware by interacting with ambient devices like sensors, actuators, or IoT-enabled devices that influence the entire immersive experience. So it's a combination of all that, right? It's being more context aware, just to add to that.
And it's pretty cool because a few years ago, I think that when we were seeing the development of maybe Google Glass or those things, they were kind of experimental in a lot of ways. to kind of find the scenarios in which we actually would need these things. I think that that's the differentiation. Augmented reality a few years ago, we had the technology, we just didn't know how to use it. Virtual reality, on the other hand, there's so many cool things that you can do because of that. You go into another whole universe. You can create a whole different thing from a game, from an experience, from even a workspace. And now we see that technology is catching up in amazing ways, and there's more and more scenarios in which both of these technologies, and of course the creation of this, the merging of both of them, can be really useful in real scenarios, and users can actually enjoy it, from simple augmented reality map experiences like Google is doing with Google Maps, to surgery stuff and things like that. It's amazing what we can do right now with those things.
Now that we understand the difference, we know AR is all around us and can be used in a variety of scenarios. In fact, there's still a lot of exploration brands are doing with this interesting piece of tech.
The thing happens that users can still use Google Maps without the AR features, right? But then you get into home decoration and the things that IKEA is doing with AR as well, that you can actually see the proportion of the furniture in your house. The things that the iPad right now, the technology that the iPad has for mapping in a 3D way your basically everything, and then manipulate that. I think that it allows for a lot of creative freedom. But I feel like it still needs to come down one level, because people that do that then needs to manipulate that beyond the first 3 times that you do it and say, okay, cool, I have my car mapped out. Then what you do with it, right? How does that continue? And I think that there still needs to be a little bit of exploration on the use cases there. It's definitely getting there, but we need to give a little bit more.
Yeah, I do think that the pandemic definitely has given this subject a huge boost. So we'll talk about those use cases, but I'm sure we'll discuss that. But the whole idea is that the overall perspective, the overall way people were looking at this, and how businesses have actually adopted it, so that they don't miss out on the physical connection with the customers. And that's where I believe augmented reality in specifically has gotten boost because of this situation that we are in now.
I do see that all of this, it feels like there's some pieces of the puzzle, and that in, I don't know, 5 years from now, maybe less, of course, all those pieces are going to get together to create pretty awesome experiences, right? Things that we're not considering right now, or even new business models that we're not considering right now. I think it's going to be really great. But at the same time, I'm worried that, the technology is advancing faster than users can catch up at some point, and I think that while we create these things, we need to be extremely mindful of how this can be useful and how this can improve the lives of our users, not just entertainment, but actual improvement. And it feels like these technologies are going to do that. They're going to help in very real ways, beyond marketing, beyond brand awareness, which I think it's obvious that they're going to do. I do see scenarios in a lot of places that can really help, right?
Right.
I have in the back of my head this, do you remember Minority Report? And that amazing, interface. Do you think we'll ever get to that? That's more holograms and things like that. But do you think these things will merge at some point?
I mean, that's a very interesting question, right? I think there have been many attempts to create holographic impressions. The other day, I was just looking at this news feed where there's this company called, as if I get the name right, Volograms. So it's a play on words with holograms, right? So what they do is when you talk about creating holograms, you need a proper studio with I don't know what this hardware that you require from Microsoft, where you can create those 3D volumetric videos or images. But all that this company was doing was just pull up a simple app, and you take a video of yourself, and then you could actually superimpose it in any environment that you want. So it's like more of a 2D hologram. But I think those things are picking up and becoming mainstream. So we at Globant have tried our hands at 2D holograms. It's fairly easy, right? We created a video conferencing software where what you could do is you actually get the person that you're talking to. Let's say Emmy, that I'm talking to you. I could actually have a 2D hologram of you in my room, which makes me feel like as if you're in the same room.
I think that it will happen. It definitely will happen, and I agree. I think it's a matter of developing the right technology and the price for those sensors to be widely spread out. I also think that in this case, it's funny, right? Because with voice, for example, voice interfaces, we 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 fell in love with voice interfaces, and you assume that you can use everything voice for everything, right? But the truth is that you don't want to be at the office and saying, "Hey Siri, hey Alexa," everywhere you go, and having that it's really intrusive for everybody else. So I think that with this type of things, the same is going to happen. If the expectation is that this type of interfaces or this type of interactions are going to take over and this is going to be the new norm, no, that's not going to be it.
Exactly, and I think for it to become really mainstream, you can't just have an extended reality experience for every single thing like you do in Minority Report, right? So I remember when uh, the uh, the character that Tom Cruise is playing, he walks into a mall and it recognizes him and starts showing advertisements or whatever information, right? So we'll have to get over all those privacy concerns that is at the top of everybody's mind, right? So you know what I mean, you figuring out who I am and then giving me a personalized experience. What are you going to do with that data? So we'll have to get through all those things. Like, for example, even today, when you're talking to Alexa or you're talking to Google Home or any of these, people still are wary of sharing information because you don't know who's listening to what, right? So there is a lot of work that needs to be done there before it becomes really mainstream.
Now we get it. Those sci-fi sounding ideas are already being tested and even applied. Let's take a look at how AR is transforming the way marketing is done.
I think the brands have the opportunity to create that with AR, to allow you to immerse yourself in some way, to see something that is really aspirational in a context that is really mundane for you, to have the ability to try on a shoe and see how you look, to try on different clothes and see how you look, and to have direct interaction with the product, even if it's not through touch, to really go into through the eyes in a very aspirational way, and I'm hoping that brands don't just go for it for the sake of, okay, you can look at the product in your home, which I think is just a first step. I'm curious about how we evolve into telling a story through that thing, since you already are in the customer's house, which is insane, and it's really important and private and intimate. How do you create that experience? Do you even create some sort of assistant, somebody that can interact with them in a live way? How would you do that? And I think those are questions that make this area of digital marketing more complex, but at the same time it merges digital marketing with creative experiences, and that's where marketing really shines.
Let's talk about what since the discussion started with talking about the fashion industry, right? And something that we've been also trying at Globant, but I'll talk about that later. What I want to hear your views is about uh, virtual try-ons, right? So how what stage of maturity do you think that any of these extended reality experiences have achieved in terms of virtual try-ons? I've seen some developments from Snapchat and all, but to me, they look a little still in a very early stage. What is your experience? What do you think about that? Yeah.
Right now, I think that everything is kind of oriented to entertainment or awareness, in terms of the funnel of the engagement with the user. And I think as time goes by, we're going to see more things going more deeper into the journey of the user. Again, I think that with AR, with the fashion industry particularly, there's so many things to be done to make it more accessible. The amazing thing that designers are doing to make it more accessible for the user. But at the same time, it might it still feels like a filter everything that we're creating, right? Like a entertainment type of thing, which are really cool. You see some filters that are amazing, and that you can spend a lot of time with that. Um, I'm still wondering how we can push it further down the user journey and to have a more meaningful experience with between the user and the brand, that it's for sure oriented to conversion, but at the same time that it's helping other purposes, that is not just that, right? What do you feel?
And I agree. And I think the reason I brought that point up also is I wanted to get your idea from you views from a design front, because I agree with you. Like if you look at the filters, sometimes you try on those filters, you probably end up looking like an alien or one of those sci-fi movies, right? It doesn't look very natural. What I've seen when we've been experimenting with creating these experiences from a technology standpoint, I think and it's a combination of AI plus AR, right? It's not just AR, because you need AI to figure out your body dimensions. And also what we've been able to do so far is figure out your sizes, right? So at least look at your torso and then recommend you clothing that would fit you. So that's very useful, right? So if you go to an e-commerce website or a fashion website and it figures out and says, hey, you know what, Emmy, you seem to be a person who would probably require a shirt size M. Okay, that's great, because you're kind of figuring out my size and telling me an M or an L, and I wouldn't have to return the product, right? Because it probably fit. But trying on that clothing on your torso, I think the technology still is very nascent. It comes out very funnily today, and like with the filters, it probably seems very alien.
I'm hoping that it's not going to take much longer, but once the technology is accurate enough for it to really feel like it's on my skin and that it has my size, and that I can, I can really even see how, thinking about the experience of women with dresses, how the fabric actually falls and those textures feel more real, and also plasticky or artificially looking. I think once we get to that point, my goodness, that's going to be so cool. I'm not going to go shopping anymore. I'm just going to stay in my home trying on different things, just getting that. And I think that's also the good thing. You enable an experience. You reduce the logistics of it all in terms of how to try things on and send them back. You can have an environmental impact if technology helps you enough to make it feel like it's a real thing, right? And even though I think that we're still a few steps away from that, it's not that far. So I'm really really looking forward to that.
And there's another use case that comes to my mind when you talk about digital clothing, right? So there have been a few startups that actually took shape during the pandemic, where what you do is, instead of doing augmented reality, you upload your picture and then it publishes your picture with the apparel that you've chosen. That gives you a good idea, right, how it would look on you, rather than you standing in front of a mirror. So I think that's promising, what we call as digital clothing. That is. And some other examples that I've seen is like how you have that model which is on the web page actually coming out in augmented reality, and then you can move the model around to see how the clothing looks on the model, right? I think people would stop warm up to a better looking model than see themselves in that clothing, right? Your favorite celebrity actually stepping out. So those are promising areas, and those should become mainstream.
So what you're saying is that AR will craft a whole new way of shopping and marketing. What would you say is the main purpose of AR?
I think that from an experience design and from a marketing perspective, I think the purpose of it all has to still remain the same. With the new technologies that we have, with the new interface that we created, with the new possibilities of new experiences, we are going to keep encouraging brands to understand what is relevant for the user. Do not use technology as a shiny new thing that gets old really fast. You need to really engage with users, consumers, employees in a relevant way, and that will lead not just to conversion but to loyalty and to a deeper engagement with a brand. Having said that, I think that particularly AR, it's going to bring a new dimension of interaction for users and a new dimension of interactions for brands to connect to users. And they have to be, brands need to be smart, but at the same time, they need to experiment with it as fast as possible, as soon as possible. They need to see how this technology, the same way that they needed to see how voice was part of their brand, and they need to see how AR is part of the brand. At the same time, how this fits in their ecosystem of the brands. I think that's a point that we can make. Brands need to really understand how these new technologies fit into their ecosystem, because they're here to stay. They're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I completely agree with Emmy. All I can say is like a +1 to what Emmy just said. You have the technology, but ultimately it's all about the user experience, right? So if you're just going to use technology just because it exists, it doesn't make any sense, right? So it all has to be catering to the end customer. The experience is going to matter. So companies just shouldn't adopt technology just for the heck of it. And we're talking about augmented reality here, but it can be a make or break if it's not carefully crafted. So bang on, Amy. I think that's what I would sum up. Yeah.
Try on clothes before buying them, see how a piece of furniture would look in our home, or map any object in front of you to see it in reality. Brands have an opportunity to create truly immersive experiences for their users and stand apart from their competition with innovative uses of augmented reality. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for more insights on Unscripted Tech, a Globant original podcast where we reflect on developments that will shape our future. To learn more about how we seek reinvention, go to globant.com and follow our show on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time.